Peace. This is a meat and potato switch reduction starring myself, the Water Alchemist, and today's topic for the occult family is path to power. Now, many people would like to acquire power, and I want to give you some suggestions from a draconian perspective. So, let's go into this first. When we are born, there are three stages of spiritual attainment or development. The first one is when you are a spiritual child. Now, what that means is essentially is that you come into this world and you learn your spirituality from your parents and their parents before them, and this is reinforced by the community and the environment that shares those principles or that religious ideology. So you go into it unquestioning. You don't question, you just obey, and you feel like, well, if my parents are doing it, it can't be wrong. The second stage is when you go into a crisis of faith or rebellion. This is the spiritual teenager. So essentially, is that you feel disillusioned and you start abandoning the faith of your family or your grandparents or your adoptive parents. So you end up metaphysically lashing out at people behind you. So where am I going with this? What I'm essentially saying is that you will get into a spiritual practice that goes against everything that you learned from your family. This could be al-Islam, or you can be attracted to the occult. And you're doing this unconsciously as an act of defiance and to get back at your family. And you feel like by choosing this path that you're getting your get back, or you're making this statement. But that is merely the spiritual teenager. You're a rebel with what you think is a cause, but it really isn't a cause. The third one is when you are your way to becoming the alchemist and you start understanding that truth can have many forms and your truth is not the only truth, it's merely subjective. So what ends up happening is that you go into your journey and you start trying to really learn about the alchemist and how to become one. But becoming an alchemist, you have to know this. You must exercise patience, because in exercising patience, that is the path to power. Now, let's go into some things that you really shouldn't do. The first thing that I want to talk about is so-called transparency, because I hear that word being tossed around a lot. Transparency is one of the most foolish endeavors that you can engage in. Stay with mentor, and I'm going to tell you why. The first reason is that when a person is too transparent with you early, what that means is this. They could teach someone who may more than likely become a foe. You're teaching them how to handle you prematurely, and that is a mistake, because it can be positive, but usually it isn't, because what you are showing them is that by you talking too fast, too early, this means, and I'm going to say it in human language, you're a chatty patty. You talk a lot. You don't know how to keep things sometimes to yourself. And you have to understand something from the draconian perspective. Trust is not a commodity to be bargained with. Now, what do I mean by this? What I mean is that trust is hard to acquire, but is very easy to lose. So let's go on to the other thing, is that when we are in this society, one of the ways that we can liberate ourselves is that once we realize that this is all a stage and an illusion, we have to come to terms with the role that we played in it. Because we did anything that we could to ingratiate ourselves to people that may not have liked us, and that they liked us for all the wrong reasons. They liked what you could do for them or what you could give. And when you're doing shadow work, especially, what you're going to realize is that you can't peel back the layers of society without peeling back the layers of yourself and asking yourself, how did I get to this point? And I have to admit, I was a willing participant, even though my soul cried out and let me know that everything I was doing was wrong. So we got to come to terms with how we were a willing participant and not a victim. Victim mentality is a no-no. And I want to speak on this, and I want to be very crystal clear, is that when you do your shadow work and you embrace the darkness within, the darkness can no longer manipulate and take advantage of you. So that's something. And I want people to think about this. When people see other people leaving the occult or metaphysics and going back into religion, part of it isn't what you think. Let me give you a breakdown of what it's really about. One of the things that a lot of occultists and teachers do not teach on this path is that liberation comes with a price. To be liberated means that you have to be lonely and isolated. And that's what they don't talk about. It's somewhat of a spiritual oxymoron, so to speak. So that's it. There's no such thing as, I get this and I don't have to give anything in return. It doesn't work like that in life. It does not work like that in the occult. So you're always going to have to learn to understand it. And that's why people will go back. They'd rather be the actor because they're not lonely. When people say, oh, you're acting different, that means that your yes is your yes, but your no is your no. That's why. Or, well, you seem distant. No, you just value your peace and your solitude. See, I know little buzzwords and tactics of manipulation and gaslighting that humans like to use. So it's not that. So that's why people go back, because they don't want to be lonely. They don't want to be by themselves. They want to be light again. And we live in a world of labels. But ask yourself this, and I want you to share this video with people. Who are you? People will say this. I'm a mother. I'm a husband. I'm a wife. I'm a father. I'm a this. Those are labels. Those are identification tags. That's what they are. Who are you? What are you? That's why the journey is necessary, because the more questions you get, even if you don't get all the answers, you will get a lot closer to what and who you really are. So with that, that is your meat and potato sorcery for the day. I am the Water Alchemist. Be water, my friends. Peace.